Hello there, fabulous entrepreneur, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast. And if you can't tell already from the tone of my voice, yes, it is time for another Podcarpet. I'm sitting on the carpet on the floor of my office, and in today's episode, I want to talk about this concept that everything is content. So this is episode number 405, which means if there are any show notes or links that we talk about in today's rambling episode, that you'll be able to find them at tashcorbin.com/405. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Now, in this episode, I want to talk about this concept of everything is content because I know it's a funny reel. You know, we hear, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram or I think it's on, it comes from TikTok, but I watch TikToks 3 months later on Instagram like a genuine 40-something-year-old. But there's an audio that people use that says, everything is content, don't forget to film it, don't forget to film it. And this has actually been a topic of conversation a few times actually in different circles that I am very honoured and so fortunate to be part of. So one of those is a masterminding group with a few very successful business owners, some from Australia, some from overseas. And we had a conversation, probably 2 years ago now, where more and more we were seeing that different parts of our lives were not for public consumption. And some of the people in the group were talking about how when they had their kids, that really became more prominent for them. In other cases, it was just this, you know what, I don't want to milk every element of my life for content anymore. And there was just kind of a little frustration. But actually for me, that's always been the case. There are parts of my life that I don't share with my business content. There are parts of who I am as an individual that I don't think I need to milk them in order to create more connection or resonance with my audience. I don't think it's particularly relevant to what I'm doing. And it's my decision to keep those parts of myself and parts of my life for me. One of those things is some of the hobbies that I do and some of the artworks that I create and some of the ways that I enjoy my free time. Some of it is my relationship with my partner, David, but also other friendships and other relationships that I have with family members. I just keep all of that stuff for myself. And there's something quite beautiful about the online business world and social media that I try to talk about all the time, because a lot of people, when they ask me questions about being on social media or having an online business, one of their concerns is that they want to have a private life, or they're an introvert and they don't really enjoy being online and in other people's energy all the time, or they're just not an exhibitionist the way that they think most online businesses are very exhibitionist. And I'm very quick to remind people that the internet was built by introverts for introverts, and that for extroverts who are powered up and juiced up by being in the presence of other humans, it's actually more challenging to find ways to be on the internet that are energizing for us, because being on the internet, reading other people's articles and watching other people's videos and consuming other people's content is actually draining for me as an extrovert, because I'm not actually connecting with any other humans at that point in time. So for me, live human-to-human connection online is what I need to facilitate to actually get that energizing feeling. But the other thing is that you actually do have a lot of control over how much you share of yourself and over what you share online. So if you choose not to share your children, you don't have to. If you choose not to share about your personal relationships, you don't have to. You don't have to milk every part of your private life for some perceived connection value that it creates with people online. But with that being said, we do still know that over 99.9% of your potential customers are human, and that humans like to buy from humans, and especially in an online business sense, being a human online makes you far more memorable and makes people far more likely to want to work with you. And so there does come this then conversation about, well, if I'm not sharing elements of my private life, or if I'm wanting to be quite private in who I am in relation to the content that I create online, then how do I create that sense of humanness, that sense of connection, if I'm not milking my life for this content? But you don't have to share every moment or every element of your life in order to create human connection. Even just sharing an experience that you had, or sharing an anecdote, or sharing a thought or a feeling that comes up for you when you experience a certain thing, is all human connection, vulnerability story worthy, just as much as sharing a photo that you were at a concert on the weekend. And I would argue that some of the things that we share when we choose to share our experiences or our feelings or some of the internal struggles that we face, that's actually far more humanizing than any set of beautiful concert pictures could ever be anyway. And something that I love that Elizabeth Gilbert says is to share from the scar, not from the wound. So if something particularly challenging is happening for me, I'm not someone who will, like, in a fit of rage, or I don't experience rage much, but, in that like complete despair is then sharing in real time that, something terrible has happened or whatever, right? Particularly with anything that's deeply personal, or, something that I'm not really sure if it even relates to my business in any way. I don't need to share that like right from the gaping wound. I can assess after a while and decide whether it feels like it would be helpful to share it, or whether it's going to be of service to anyone else in any way, or am I just trying to use the internet as a therapy alternative, or am I trying to use the internet as a Dear Diary? Now, that's ironic because I'm sitting on the floor like sharing my Dear Diary thoughts with you right now, but this is the kind of stuff that I am quite happy to share, right? Is that internal conflict that you can sometimes have when something happens and you think, oh, should I share this as content? Should we post this? I know that there are some content creators and there are some social media people out there and there's some online business owners out there that the moment they set foot on a plane, they must take video footage and they must take photos and they must share, oh, look at me, I'm on a plane. I can happily travel on a plane and not take photos of that experience these days. First few times I traveled business class, I tell you, I definitely was sharing it. But these days, traveling business class is the norm for me, and I don't need to capture every single business class experience. A lot of them are pretty much same anyway. And so, I think that there is this like sense of like just deep knowing that I know how to be human and I know how to connect and I know how to be of service with my audience and with my clients in a way that doesn't feel like I'm crossing my own boundaries around the types of things that I want to share online. So I just wanted to kind of bring that one forward because I think that sometimes when people see the extent to which I do share stuff online, you might make an assumption that you know everything that there is to know about me. But whilst I do share the role that David plays behind the scenes in helping me as a business owner, and I also share, some of our routines and habits that we have together to, support each other and build a strong relationship in that way, you have no insight. Like I do not share publicly what the deeper parts of our relationship are like. I'm only sharing like what the surface level of our relationship looks like in terms of what we do in doing our CEO dates together, or how we divide roles amongst ourselves in our home. That's very different to knowing the depths of our relationship, knowing the depths of how we interact with each other outside business/household stuff. There's so much to that relationship that is not for public consumption. And I really love that I can keep that nice and private. Similarly, I do share a bit about my relationship with my niece and my relationship with my sister. But in terms of other family members, I don't really talk a lot about that. Close friendships that I have, don't really talk much about that. When I first started doing pottery, I shared a few photos here and there, like, oh, look at this, I made this, because I was really proud of it. But now my pottery is like my tune out time. So I don't really share much about that. People know that I play netball and I'm a netball fan, but I'm not capturing footage of me at netball every time I go and play, or sharing every time I'm in the netball corporate box on socials. Like, that's like my fun time. I don't need to milk that to present a certain image of myself online in order to validate my existence as a business mentor. There, like a lot of the holidays that David and I go on and a lot of those trips away that we go on, no one knows we've been there. No one knows how long we were there. No one knows what we did. No one knows, did we go for a nature walk? Did we go to no one knows, because that's our time. And so I just wanted to share a bit of that, because I do think that it could be easy to assume with how much content you see from me online that I'm divulging everything, that I'm milking every part of my life to be some form of content bank, to be able to create connection with people and, you know, present a certain lifestyle or whatever it might be. But honestly, it just isn't. And most of the time that I spend each day doing what I do each day is uncaptured. It's not related to my business. I spend less time working on my business than I do on everything else in my life. My business is something that takes up a very small portion of my week. And so because of that, I don't necessarily feel like everything else is up for grabs for everyone. So yeah, that's just a little conversation starter once again, a bit of a podcarpet. I just wanted to share it because I've done a lot of helping people recently with content creation, and we are in the throes of, you know, some big conversations inside the Takeoff program at the moment. And I think as part of that, there is this fear when you haven't created a business online yet, or when you are only seeing content creators and business owners who basically share everything and milk everything and keep telling you that everything is content, then it can create this belief that that's just how you have to do it to be successful with an online business. A lot of people who tell me that they don't want to use social media to grow their business, actually, when we have a deeper conversation about it, it's that they don't want to share their lives on social media in order to have a business. And that's a very different conversation. Or they just don't want to be on social media for 4 hours a day, every day for the rest of their lives. That's also a very different conversation. So what we do in the Imperfect Post project, which I've now run twice, the IPP, and I'll be running next inside my accelerator program, is we create 100 days of social content in one big go. And that means that you've got 100 days of social media content scheduled to your social profile every single day for 100 days. And it is optimized for different roles in your client attraction process. It's got a good mix of human-to-human content, giving advice content, connection content. And so one of the big things that people experience when they finish the IPP with me is this sense of like overwhelming relief and joy that, oh my gosh, if I didn't create another piece of social media content for the next 3 months, I'd be fine. It's all taken care of. It's done now. And then experiencing that, one of the big things that I see is people who previously told me that they hated social media and they didn't want to use social media for their business. We do the IPP together and we get all of that content created. And now whenever they show up on social media, the only thing that they need to do is connect human to human with other humans. And all of a sudden, they love social media and they enjoy being there again. because there's not pressure on them every day to come up with some kind of fantastic piece of content or some random offer that's going to make them hundreds of dollars or 10 sales or whatever in one go. It's taken all this pressure off that space, and they can just go back to using it to be social again, even if it's for your business, even if though that is having conversations with potential clients, and it's having conversations with your mentor, and it's having conversations with your colleagues and peers, right? Like, all of that can be really joyful and social when you know that your social strategy is taken care of. And so I think it's something that when we have conversations like this, and when we unpack it a little further and we dig into what it is that we're really afraid of or what we're really resisting, in a lot of cases, it's just really poorly managed social media that we're against. Or it's social media that just feels like it takes up all of your day and all of your time and all of your energy and your focus, and doesn't really return much in returns, like it doesn't return much in sales or business growth. And so you feel like a lot of it is wasted time. I wouldn't enjoy social media if that's how it felt for me either. And so, yeah, that was today's Podcarpet. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please do send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, or you can also send an email through to support@tashcorbin.com. I love hearing your thoughts about these podcast episodes, and if you have any questions for me to follow up from that, and you'd like me to answer some questions on a Podcarpet episode, then we'll also pop the link with the show notes for today's episode to submit a question. And maybe some Podcarpets will be Podcarpet Q&As. Let's see how we go. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.